Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 9th episode of 1998 WWF Shot of Nostalgia right here at the Turnbuckle Tavern. I'm good old Mike Belcaster, and joining me, as always, is this beautiful son of a bitch right here. Whoop, there we go.
Live from the No Sale Studios, it's the ACEFIELD Tavern, ACEFIELD Retro. It is WrestleMania weekend. We made it. We are going head-to-head with ROH Supercard of Honor. Maybe you're watching this on demand. Maybe you're fitting into the hours upon hours of wrestling content we have to unpack. The GCW Collective, the Impact New Japan Show, Multiverse Show, WrestleMania 2 nights, Ring of Honor, not to mention AEW Rampage and AEW Dynamite. Man, this is a wrestling fan's dream this week. It's like Christmas for us.
It is Christmas for us, man. I'm super just stoked, ecstatic, man. I just politely got off of my busy day here in Los Angeles, and I'm waking right over at the El Segundo Brewery to grab me some Broken Skull IPAs just in time for the weekend, my friend.
Dude, and like the thing is, on top of all the current wrestling that's going on, you and I are unpacking the past wrestling. We hop into DeLorean, go back to 1998 and relive the history. We're reviewing 3 events, 2 Raws, 1 pay-per-view, May 25th. We get the Over the Heads 1998 pay-per-view and also the June 1st Raw. So a lot to break down here. We're approaching the summer months in WWF 1998. Things are popping off, and these episodes we have to talk about here before we get into it, it seems pivotal. Like there's a lot of new characters. We've been hearing some names in there. We've seen the appearance of Draws. We've seen Golga be mentioned with John Tenta. Things are starting to really change here in 1998.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I was trying to explain to Tom how different the scope of everything is. And hold on, let's get a little Kraksky ASMR. Cheers, my friend. Happy Shot of Nostalgia Day to you.
Cheers.
Happy
I got
WrestleMania.
this Greenport Harbor Sour IPA. That's a cool little paint can. I looked in my fridge looking for the Segundo Stone Cold beers. I'm all out. I had to get some new ones for Mania weekend.
I'm going to have to scoop up some for you and fly them back, man. But yeah, man, the times are a changing here in 1998. It seems like the out with the old and in with the hell yeah new, man. I'm pumped for it. I'm excited to see Draz's short but sweet little stint here in WWF, man. I was always a big fan of Draws. He's got a puke, you know. So yeah, man, pumped, super stoked.
All right, so let's get into the newsletter and talk about the May 25th, and we're going to approach the first June newsletter from Dave Meltzer, who's been the eye of the storm with controversy. You guys can hear all about Dave Meltzer in 2023, but here, 1998, he's still years away from getting into verbal spats with CM Punk in the media. But let's get into happy hour.
Happy hour.
Alrighty, the May 25th, 1998 newsletter, and we have the fallout of the Eric Bischoff challenge to Vince McMahon to a fight on pay-per-view. And Meltzer's unpacking this, and Vince McMahon was no-selling it, but we are getting some people talking about this. And all of us, this lives in lore. We remember this happening. We see the video of Eric Bischoff coming out on the motorcycle, lives forever. And it kind of gets unpacked in the Monday Night War documentaries, the series that came out in Peacock, and there's a whole bunch of WWE side of the story. And it's interesting to me when we unpack this and talk about it is talking about it in real time. And a lot can happen over time and perspective changes when you have hindsight, but this is Meltzer's immediate reaction. It's fascinating to me.
Oh yeah. I'm excited for it.
So Meltzer says, is there a method to Eric Bischoff's madness? Just and he said that was the question at the end of this week's of Wrestling on TV, with Bischoff constantly taunting Vince. Never addressed the situation personally on television on 5/11, although it was mentioned in the commentary during the show. By midweek, McMahon had responded on the WWF website. His lawyer, familiar face, Jerry McDivitt, wrote a threatening legal letter to Bischoff. And the WWF also complained to cable companies about WCW intimidating McMahon. Emanating McMahon might be there, claiming WCW was using bait and switch tactics on the consumers. We know these guys are playing in the legal warfare. We see them sue over Diesel and Razor Ramon. But Bischoff is trying to win a little bit of the battle here, getting a one-up on Vince McMahon. But Vince will have the last laugh, won't he?
No, absolutely. But I mean, this was very hot at the time, man. I remember seeing the motorcycle drop down from the sky. And, you know, you honestly, being a fan, being young, being gullible, you didn't know if Vince was going to show up at Nitro or if Bischoff was going to show up on Raw and anything could go, man, right? Because that's what it was all about. But it seemed like Bischoff was just trying to play that I'm better than you card, which it only goes so far, right?
Well, it just shows how crazy and confident and cocky he was, because Bischoff, Meltzer says, was totally out of control doing 2 interviews on Thunder on 5/14 from Durham, New Hampshire. And one where she just read the Jerry McDivitt letter, a training video shown preparing for the match that wasn't going to take place, and then teased throughout the pay-per-view show that McMahon might be there, having Michael Buffer introduce a Bischoff versus McMahon match with McMahon not being there. The fans counted McMahon out of the ring, and Bischoff had a ref award him the match via forfeit. And he didn't even stop there. Bischoff kept it up the next night on Nitro, claiming a win the previous night, by which the story had already gone well past running its course. What are your thoughts on this? Like, you think it's par for the course? Like Vince would have done the same thing, or you think this is below a fair play?
Ooh, I mean, Vince wouldn't have done the same thing because he didn't do the same thing, right? I think Vince had more ability to see through the bullshit, not fall for the trap, but he also had more respect for himself than Bischoff did to stoop to this kind of banter, going on live television, especially with Michael Buffer introducing, ladies and gentlemen, Vince McMahon. It's ridiculous to think that he got away with this. Like, I don't know how he didn't get a fucking swift punch to the mouth just for pulling this off. I'm sure Vince had some words with him once he got rehired by WWF, man.
It's crazy wild to think after all this, they wind up working together and he's hired as the GM. And that's what makes it crazy to even think about it getting to that point where people don't understand. Yeah. When Bischoff showed up on Raw in 2002 as the GM, it was absolutely baffling that this could happen. But obviously we'll get there. We're in 1998, but that's 2002. But McMahon, we all remember him not responding, but allegedly on the internet, he did respond on the WWF website. And he said, I consider Eric Bischoff's challenge a cheap and desperate tactic to increase WCW pay-per-view buys. I will not do anything to help WCW increase their buys. Therefore, I will not appear at Turner's next pay-per-view as invited. However, if Mr. Bischoff is hell-bent on fighting me, then such a fight can be arranged at any time, in any parking lot in the country, void of TV cameras, photographers, and public announcement. So this is something that doesn't really get said because we just look like McMahon takes the high road, but he does a really good thing here. He utilizes the internet, which is still in its infantile phase where we're not talking about the IWC in the same way, but he knew it would get back to the smart fans. Like, all right, that Vince can't respond on TV, but he's getting his message out there. Like, I'm still a tough guy. I could beat Bischoff's ass if I wanted to.
Yeah, this is the first ever clapback via tweet. I mean, that's on record here. But I mean, look, like I said, Vince is a very, very smart guy. And for him to even, like, I have no recollection of this, but even for him to acknowledge it on the WWF website and, just get the word out there that I'm not stooping down to that level. I'm not fucking around here. If he wants to fight me, we could do it without the cameras on. And I wish something would have came to a head with that.
And the interesting thing that Meltzer said here, he said that essentially he had WWF's leader had to acknowledge this because they can't back down, which can't happen because just like Stone Cold, the WWF has an attitude. So if he was to back down, he can't look weaker than Bischoff. So he chose his spot, and I think he acted appropriately because it's a no-win situation. He obviously can't show up on their pay-per-view, even though it probably was tempting to beat his ass. And I remember the Eric Bischoff documentaries, and anytime he talks about it, there was a good chance. I think people in the back, I think Nash and Hall and everyone that's worked with Vince, like, be careful what you wish for. He may show up and beat your ass.
Yeah, nice little soft whispers from Hogan, like, listen, brother, you don't want to go down that alley, man. But yeah, I think it would have been riveting television to see Vince and Bischoff at this competing stage in a ring together. Oh, would have been wild.
Not that this has any legs here, but the Pennsylvania Championship Wrestling promotion is using a heel group called Revolution X. Listen to the guys in this faction: Reckless Youth, Christian Cage, Sexton Hardcastle, and Flash Flanagan. 2 guys, Edge and Christian. Christian Cage, Sexton Hardcastle. Interesting enough, Edge has yet to make his debut on WWF television. He's very close to, but he's getting some seasoning in Pennsylvania Championship Wrestling. But fascinating to see. And obviously Reckless Youth was someone who was a highly touted prospect and someone that everyone wanted to sign. He's been popping up throughout the newsletter, throughout ECW and elsewhere. But it's interesting to see Christian and Edge teamed up here. I know they're childhood friends, but always tied together.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. Right, one after another is built up for.
So we have a Shawn Michaels back update, and it is said that his back is to be slowly recovering, according to his lawyer's reports to the WWF office. It now looks like he won't have surgery, but they are targeting January for his comeback. Depending on the lay of the land, he'll either come back in DX or to feud with DX. So that never happens. He doesn't get right. But imagine Shawn Michaels in the landscape of January 1999. Think about where they were, the Rumble. Vince McMahon wins the Rumble. Obviously, Stone Cold goes on to WrestleMania to wrestle The Rock again. 1999 is blossoming year. Imagine adding Shawn Michaels to the fire.
It's wild, man. Absolutely wild. Mind blowing. I could imagine, especially in that commissioner role. You know how if he's the anti-authority guy, or if he's the authority guy and against the anti-authority figures like Vince McMahon, DX, Stone Cold, it could have been great. But that would have also been if Michaels was healthy enough mentally and physically to be out there, you know, partaking in angles and stuff like that. Like you need the physicality that Vince is offering to the Stone Cold storyline to make it work. So I don't know, man. It would have been very interesting to see.
I broke my back.
I'll pop for it every time.
So also, too, this brings me to a question I have for you. But let me read the story first, which is a true story according to Meltzer from Mount Vernon, New York. 14-year-old Nicholas Pate, an 8th grader, was sent home from school for the second straight day on May 5th for wearing an Austin t-shirt. She claims she should have the right to wear the shirt since it doesn't contain profanity and it isn't sacrilegious, no different from wearing a t-shirt of any sports hero. Her principal, Deborah Payne, said she felt the t-shirt conveyed the wrong message. And she said the student handbook spells out that students are not allowed to wear clothing that has anything to do with drugs, alcohol, gang-related symbols, violence. And I think this t-shirt is a sign of violence. And apparently the Stone Cold shirt said tall people, short people, and people with glasses. The bottom line is I can kick your asses. This was when we were in elementary school, junior high. This was a thing. The DX shirts, the Stone Cold shirts, making you turn them inside out. Even some of the music shirts I used to wear throughout high school, they would make you take the shirt off because it had profanity, middle fingers, things like that. Do you have any Mike Belcaster stories of wearing a wrestling shirt and being told, hey, you can't wear that shirt?
You bet your bottom dollar I do. I was a victim of the Chicago public school system, and they did not take kindly to pro wrestling or music for that matter. Off the top of my head was the I forgot, it was an ECW shirt and it says our big boys can kick your big boy's ass or something like that. And ECW logo on the front, instant flip it off or go home. So I did the old reverse-a-roo. DX always got in trouble. Teacher always pulled me aside like, don't wear that shit again. But of course you're gonna wear it because you suck it. Like we are in it, man. But the last one that happened to me was Chris Jericho, because he had the jackass somewhere on the shirt. It was in the Y2J light blue lettering, very, very nice. This was like the last day of school for 8th grade, and the teacher's like, you had to do it one more time, like you couldn't just end it. I was like, it's so small you could barely read ass, and we were in 8th grade, we're on our way out, leave us alone, man.
Fantastic. And I remember back in the day getting a shirt from WWF shop was so rare because you had to order it through the magazine, or if they came to your town, you'd buy a shirt at the merch table. But as a kid, my wrestling shirts were always going to a place called the Atias Flea Market, which is now closed. They now made it into a Target. Where the Young Bucks can't manage the Target or whatever, something like that. But it was the Atias Flea Market, and they would have different stands, and they would have, sport cards. They would have different things like jewelry, but they had a specific graphic t-shirt section, and it was like heaven on earth because they had different bands. They had every wrestling shirt, and they were printing the shirts there. So they had wrestlers that would just come on the scene, similar to Val Venus. They'd have a graphic t-shirt that they designed with a Val Venus shirt when he just appeared on TV. Or like I remember my first DX shirt. It was pretty much a bootleg shirt. It wasn't copy. It wasn't a WWF shirt, but it was my favorite piece of clothing. Like I had the Rock shirt with the big picture of the Rock on it. Some of my fondest memories wearing those shirts to school. And like you said, teachers and principals and administrators in school were not a fan. And now working in the education system, it's like you kind of see why. But as a kid,
of course,
you want to rep your favorites, because after watching Raw on Tuesday morning, you're like, I need to wear my Stone Cold shirt. He ripped everybody up that night. I gotta represent. So
No,
interesting stuff.
100%. I'm pretty sure my ECW shirt was super bootleg, by the way. I got it in the middle of the mall at a kiosk, who gives a shit? It was the only place I could buy an ECW shirt without going to an ECW show, and they didn't come here that often. So I wanted my big boys kick your big boys ass shirt, man. It fucking sign me up.
My introduction to ECW was through a shirt like that. I was at a summer camp, probably 1996, and I remember someone was wearing a Sabu shirt. And it was a white shirt. I remember like the blood, and they had a picture of him diving over. It was a cartoon graphic. And it was my first introduction to ECW. And to me, when we talked about an ECW shot in nostalgia, go back and watch season 2, ECW 1995. It took the world by storm. It seemed like counterculture, and it just was fantastic. And that shirt spoke to it. Like, what is that? I need to check it out. But anything to be said about wrestling?
Yeah, 100%.
So in the Scripps Howard News Service story, they talked about the popularity of Monday Night Wrestling. Someone named Bonnie Hammer, the USA Network program executive whose job it is to oversee the pro wrestling TV show, stated that Austin was the hottest character in the WWF. But get this is from Meltzer. People love to hate this guy. He's kind of a negative guy, and he creates a kind of eerie attitude. Meltzer continues, Hammer's job has been to oversee what goes on during the WWF broadcast over the past year. And I guess that's why they get away with what they do, because the people in charge of paying attention pay real close attention. He's being sarcastic, obviously, because he turned face and they think he's a heel. She credited the changes made by WWF to upping interest in ratings over the past year as cleaning up the storylines, which he's like, he put a question mark in between because clearly they came up. And he said improving production values so matches don't look like they are videotaped by amateurs in a YMCA basement. She said, he continued, actually, she was positively on the ball compared with comments made by Chris Mortensen, who produced the A&E special in the same story. He talked about today's wrestling being popular because you have clean-cut All-American boys battling against America's threat of the moment. This was interesting. And this is just more par for the course of wrestling being in the mass media for the first time since 1985, where Hulk Hogan was at the helm. But now it's, the media is fighting against the counterculture that is wrestling because it's having a negative influence on kids.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. And it's just like music was earlier in the 90s. Like they really picked and pulled apart pro wrestling to a threatening degree, man. It was like they were one bad story away. Even though a lot of bad shit happened in the late 90s in pro wrestling, but they were one really bad story away from it all just disappearing. And I'm shocked with all the tragic events we've had, all the stuff going on, scandals and shit. Like we're still talking about it, 30 years later.
It's crazy. And it's funny too, because you and I were talking about the Undertaker segment from Nassau Coliseum, the one I was live in person for, where Kane chokeslams Taker into his mom's casket. They show like the femur bone, they show the worms and all that. And I was talking to my friend who is a diehard wrestling fan, and he himself forgot about that exact moment. I pulled it up on YouTube and was like, here it is. And he couldn't believe they showed it on TV either. It just shows you, I don't know, that feud gets looked at with rose-colored glasses a little bit, and people look past some of the goofy stuff they did, and like things like Katie Vick get put on blast. But meanwhile, they were doing things that were insane. And then cutting to Michael Cole going back, guys. I mean, come on, Michael Cole be like, we brought the body to a secure facility. It's just it's laughable they were doing on TV, but everyone was eating up. It was reality-based programming, and they take it to the extreme.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man.
All right, going to the June 1st, 1998 newsletter, Meltzer talks about the popularity of Steve Austin. He says the battle is on for second place behind Steve Austin. The WWF is having its hottest period in years, and it's largely been built on one man. And he says, even in Hogan's peak, nobody ever had the TV built so much around him, and the WWF ratings have been on the ascent for the past 6 months. In the ring, despite neck and knee problems, his matches have generally been very good, and there may never have been anyone in the industry who have sold as many T-shirts in such a short period of time. He continues, Austin is such an obvious pick that I can't even come up with a good choice for second place. He's referring to his Wrestler of the Year for 1998 as we approach mid-year. He talks about work rate not being aside. He talks about Misawa is clearly the best wrestler in the world at that point, but he doesn't even touch where Austin as his popularity goes. But very interesting to hear him talk about Wrestler of the Year. It's very critical. Even today, people hear, Moxley, when he won, they're like, how could Moxley win? Just one man's opinion, guys. But Austin, it wasn't even an opinion at this point. He was the number one draw in all of wrestling for that period of time, from 98 until end of 99, really.
Yeah, I mean, even they're still selling shirts, and I will go back and forth with it all the time. I had a 2-hour conversation with Kevin Nash about how they had to nix the NWO and WWE because their shirts were just catching up to Austin sales, and they're like, "No, we can't have that, pal." So I mean, listen, shit happens. It's part of the business, man. And when you're moving merch, you should be being moved up the notches in the in the storylines as well. It's only fair.
And dude, and it's so funny too. And I think about I remember reading the story about the Nike guy, the guy who made the Nike swish, and they talked about the amount of money he got to design it on a one-off. And for people that make graphics, sometimes you sell the rights and the copyright to that. But imagine being that guy who created the Nike swish, or the guy who created the Austin 316. Some intern in Connecticut made this T-shirt, not receiving his cut. You know, I guarantee WWF, it was their merchandise, and they're continuing to make like Austin still has one of the highest selling T-shirts in the world today, and he hasn't been on TV active. I mean, he wrestled last year, but it just shows you the length that a classic T-shirt, a classic logo can go. So secure your rights, guys. Work out a better deal.
100%. Use Extra Cooler.
Yeah, use Extra Cooler, and shout out to Extra Cooler for obviously the FTR shirt, but also Matt Cardona posted the thing today with the Indie God potentially as the temporary tattoo on his neck. But imagine the Indie God logo tattooed on Matt Cardona's neck. I mean, that's the best publicity you could ever get.
100%, man.
I love Extra Cooler, guys. Follow at Extra Cooler. Check out their WrestleMania 8 2-parter, and they'll be having the Wrestling Classic coming on their show this coming week, talking with the great account that allegedly made MJF into becoming a wrestler. I mean, if you guys know that story, the Wrestling Classic posted the famous photo of Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. MJF cut that promo, whether it's true or not from his end. I think it is true. Max said this, but that's what got him into wanting to train to be a wrestler when he saw CM Punk and Bryan Danielson shaking hands, that posted by the Wrestling Classic. So maybe they'll tell that story on the podcast.
It's beautiful, man.
So we have Mexico becoming something of a battleground from WCW and WWF. So obviously there's warfare going on everywhere with talent trying to get TV deals and ratings, but WWF is getting a television deal in Mexico and finalizing the WWF Latino deal for Univision for a 30-minute weekly show on Saturday afternoons. They'll begin in the fall for the U.S. World Wrestling Federation has only signed 2 Mexican wrestlers to contracts. Aguila, who will be the aforementioned Esther Rios, he's going to be demasked in a little bit here. We're going to see him on TV with Lita as his manager.
Woo. And
Pantera, who hasn't been used of late. Plus, they have 6 minis that haven't been used but are under contracts of low guarantees. Point being is that this is sort of the breeding ground for WCW to grab some guys. It also was ECW, but WWF is tapping into the Mexican wrestlers, and having access to them is kind of cutting WCW at the knees. And it's funny because I don't think WWF really wanted to use them. They just wanted WCW not to use them. And that just, that's just warfare. It's like, at this point, they're like, well, you're benefiting from it. I'll take the rights to it, and I won't use it successfully.
Bullshit.
So we also have WCW realizing they had dragged their feet on an idea with the Mexican wrestlers and continuing the deal. So they've been bouncing around for years, and WWF beat them to the punch and got a network deal for a good time slot. Sent Sonny Ono to Mexico with Yuji Nagata and tried to work out a deal with Paco Alonso. Was never signed any kind of deal with WWF. The basic stumbling block between WCW and TV Azteca has been the failure to come to terms on money. WCW has at least strongly hinted they want their wrestlers working in EMLL since the Azteca deal is falling apart, but there are numerous problems there. Since WCW owns worldwide rights to luchadors, they can assign them dates in Mexico City and book them, but by doing so, the wrestlers themselves wouldn't get any extra money. This is also, too, tied with Conan's relationship, and you guys remember this from WCW 1996, ECW 1995. Conan is being brought in. He's a good worker. He's awesome in the ring, but he also has the relationship to get guys like Juventud Guerrera, get guys like Rey Mysterio Jr., get guys like Psychosis, and Conan, wherever he goes, a lot of those crew goes. And at this point, it's a bidding war for who's going to get these Mexican luchadors.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I remember thinking back in the day too, like, man, how cool it would have been to see Conan in WWF. You know, like I would have been so stoked for it. I think he would have fit the up and coming changes so well, like this bringing him an attitude. Conan had attitude, man. He would have been perfect. But you see why he was tied up with WCW. He was the booker man for Mexico, though. Like anything that would go from Mexico to US, any talent that was being imported over would go through Conan, man. It's insane.
Yeah, and just like in WWF and WCW having a war, AAA and EMLL are having their warfare as well. And we see that still to this day with CMLL getting warfare with AAA. And even we saw that with Penta and Ray Phoenix, they weren't able to work both. And there was like for Forbidden Door, they wouldn't let them work. I remember I think it was Forbidden Door. They wouldn't let them work because AAA guys were working on the show. So there is still very bad blood. So Conan, he had this idea that he wanted to bring his entire crew into EMLL and try and pop big houses using them as outsiders, invading in a promotional angle similar to NWO, at least on a level in Mexico. But there was obviously creative differences. But point being is Mexico was it was a battleground for who could get the rights of all these great talented wrestlers. And really WWF they brought guys in, but they never utilized them. Like in 1998, you'll see Aguila, aka Esarios. We'll see some guys come in. They emphasize it on WrestleMania 14 for that, some lucha matches, but it never really catches fire like it did in WCW for that short period of time.
No, 100%, man. And like Mexico is still a hot market for pro wrestling. My buddy Robert Anthony was just over there working, and I mean the crowd was a WrestleMania sized crowd on a Friday night.
Yeah,
like it's insane, and it's crazy. I don't know how WWE or AEW has been doing a better job, but I mean tapping into that market, even WCW did it the best. Like it's hard to argue that,
Yeah, when we look at those crowds too, the atmospheres at some of these AAA and CMLL shows, they're absolutely bar none, because in a lot of ways similar to the Japanese culture and the wrestling fan, they believe it's real. So the heat that gets conjured in these buildings, it's legitimately, people are seething at some of the heels and the heel work. And I'm telling you, watch some of the AAA matches, and whether you watch Triple Mania, whatever it is, the big events, the atmosphere alone makes it something that has to be like a tourist destination for wrestling fans. Like for me, it's a bucket list thing. Card be damned, whoever's on the card. I just want to be in sort of the atmosphere similar to WrestleMania. Wrestle Kingdom, WrestleMania, and Triple Mania would be 3 bucket list things to attend.
Absolutely, man. No, it's crazy.
So we get the debut of Darren Drozdoff as Puke as the partner of the LOD. Meltzer says it was underwhelming. He said Puke won't be a member of LOD. But obviously he
Shocker.
is. We see him. He says, but he will team with them. They said he got his name because when he was playing with the Denver Broncos on a Monday night game, he threw up and got a 15-yard delay game. He tried to throw up before the match, but that didn't seem to accomplish his goal. JR pushed him like crazy in commentary. But we also saw him in Beyond the Mat. You said he's going to puke, that whole thing. That was his thing.
Puke.
Vince was into the fact that he could make himself puke on the man. That's your gimmick, bro.
One of the best cinema pieces of all time is Vince holding the garbage can. He's like, come on, do it. He's gonna puke. Like, how can you not love it?
Oh, man. But also, speaking of guys that are not being used correctly, as we bring draws in, it seems like they're phasing Vader out. And we saw Vader being used on that Japanese show, the All Japan show, just last week. And they're talking about Vader as far as his size and being out of shape. And Jim Ross saying that he thought Vader was out of shape, and Vader's belly is clearly far bigger than usual and maybe the biggest yet. But it's the first time in the history of pro wrestling universe that an announcer has made that observation of a headliner while building up to an important pay-per-view match. World Wrestling Federation is really trying to emphasize to its wrestlers, both old and new, about keeping in better condition, both because it will help the quality of matches if the guys don't let themselves balloon, but also guys in better shape shouldn't get injured as often. Meltzer continues, the problem is that we don't live in a perfect world. And even though it's admirable for the company to want guys looking in shape, both for their marketing performance, it's at this point, it's not going to be, unless they are creating a culture like they are now of diet and having trainers similar to a sporting facility. They're just saying things. They want you to look good. AK do that to make you look good, but maybe not so much as your mental state and your physical health. So not a great optic from WWF.
No, absolutely not. And it was very similar with Yokozuna, I believe, too. They were, and we've seen it throughout the years with Mark Henry and, Paul White, and it's crazy, man. They never, they never were polite about it.
And it's interesting too. And I know JR has probably fed the line about it because obviously that's what they're doing, but they're pretty much burying Vader on TV. And it's quite obvious. We'll see Vader in the mask versus mask match against Kane. And I go back to the shoot interview that Vader did before he passed away, just talking about his time in WWF. It was like they didn't want him to succeed. Like it was a vendetta against him. And I'm not saying that's true, because why would you sign a guy for money and have him fail? But it's just interesting to me. Like you set him up for failure and you put him in positions to not be successful. Like it just made no sense. I think he pissed off the wrong people based on how he works stiff, I guess. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a shame too, because like we all know how great of a talent Vader was. If he was able to apply that into this era of wrestling, I think he would have done very well, but not with the way they were being booked.
So we're going to continue down here with Meltzer talking about the best young wrestlers in 1998. And it's funny because how critical he is of these two guys. And he says, Meltzer says, it was funny when Maivia versus Triple H were having a 2.25 match stars at best, how Ross was going crazy about them being two of the best young wrestlers in the game. And of course, they're in the WWF. And he should, since WWF has managed to create the market perception that they've got all the good young talent. And these are two that fall into that category. Meltzer continues, it was funny because seeing Raw after Nitro and seeing Kidman and Hoovy, who are both like 8 years younger than Triple H, have 4 times as good of a match with 5 times as much heat. But since WCW doesn't focus on its young guys who can work, WWF is still seen by people and able to promote itself as as having the best young wrestlers, and clearly the opposite is the case. Wow. I just have to give Meltzer a round of applause.
Yeah.
Giving some WCW some love here. And we see it on WCW television. Like, yes, they didn't push guys like Hoovy. Yes, they didn't push Kidman, but they were tearing it up ahead of their time. And shout out to the fan-funded, the crowdsourced Nitro thing.
Oh,
it seems appropriate that we need to just like mention that here. Go out and support it.
About it.
Yeah,
please. Mattel Creations. It's listen, $400 sounds like a lot, but you're getting 5 Ultimate figures, which are like $50 a pop. You know, it's maybe more. So that's covering half the bill on that own. And then you got beautiful WCW to a T Nitro stage with movable WCW, metal pieces and shit. God, I could plug this all day. Watch Fig Night. We're going to go over it. You'll enjoy it.
What are your thoughts on him saying that Triple H and Rock are not two of the best young wrestlers? I remember as a kid, like they were just great workers in my mind, but obviously not compared to Hoovy and Billy Kidman. But what are your thoughts on this?
I think this is the one of the first write-ins about Fed Brain. Like this is this is Fed Brain right here. Like, oh, they are the best, but you're like, no, but no. Triple H and The Rock are the best. Those guys, they're too small. They was still getting in that transition period, right? But they eventually bring in people the size of Kidman, Bryan Danielson, you name it, whatever. But this was them just forcing that. And like, no word of Stone Cold here, but it's like Triple H and The Rock, best wrestlers in the world. Correct, they are great, but you can't put The Rock in a ring with a Kenny Omega in 2023 and expect The Rock to hold his ground. It's not because he's lost touch, but because it's just not his gimmick anymore. Same to Triple H sadly can't get in the ring either, but even before his last match, it was the shits. Like it wasn't, it wasn't anything like 5, like, oh yeah, Shawn Michaels and Triple H in Saudi got 5 stars because it was amazing. Like we know it wasn't, because you get what you're buying, right? But yeah,
even go back to 1998, it's just fascinating to see. It's propaganda that they're just saying, if they say things enough, similar to like what they did with the greatest match ever with the Edge and Randy Orton. You say it enough, people start to believe it. And Triple H, who is, they said, 8 years older than Juventud Guerrera, it's just interesting to me. And obviously, the other thing I want to bring up a point is, it's quite clear that work rate is not a thing here. So any guy who's working a little bit above average, they look like they're an absolute technician. And Rock and Triple H are examples. They are good workers, but compared to the guys today, maybe not as good as far as in ring, but their stuff at the point, they were the top of the top tier in 1998 because nobody was working great. We watched these matches. It's absolute garbage, hot garbage in the ring as far as the in-ring action aside from top of the card. But when you're watching guys like Golga and like, Dan Severin, Steve Blackman, they're not putting on 5-star classic because it wasn't about that. It was about the story you were telling in the ring and outside of the ring. So
100%, man.
When any good work rate happens to be there, like Rock and Triple H, it's like, wow, they're stealing the show. But it was really because you were just so used to like not good work rate. I guess that's pretty much it.
No, you have to go into this with beer goggles. Like you're gonna be like, man, that looks so much better than it really was. And like, but I mean, that's the fun of what we're doing here, is we're going back and watching things that we spent, a good portion of our lives watching already, and just reanalyzing it, seeing how it fits into the date. And that's why I fucking love Shot of Nostalgia, man.
I love it too. And we have one final thing here. The Seaholm High School baseball team in Seattle was doing an assembly in front of the school when they began doing crotch chopping and screaming, "Suck it." The principal at the school was so freaked out that he canceled the team's games in the area playoffs, forcing them to forfeit out of the tournament. more stuff about schools and kids and wrestling and bad influences. This was every school in America, all across every state. Everyone was dealing with it. Wrestling was on fire.
Any boy from 8 to 20 was rocking pro wrestling t-shirts.
It's absolutely amazing to look at, but we will get into getting our fix because it's time to break down that exact same style of wrestling that brainwash all these kids and make them make bad decisions like us.
Get your fix.
Yeah, brother.
Here we are. We're in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the UTC Arena for May 25th, 1998, Monday Night Raw. And it opens up, Belcaster. Here comes Vince and all the Stooges. He's got police protection this time because he knows, I think he's learning from Stone Cold beating his ass from week to week. And Vince gets on the mic. He's congratulating Pat and Briscoe and says, you guys took it to Austin. And then he also says to Sergeant Slaughter, you walled him from behind. And they replay Vince disguise and attacking Austin. He's pumped about WWF going over the edge this weekend. And he talks about Austin no longer being the champ after this weekend. And boom, we get the glass breaking. Austin has a smile on his face. He grabs the mic and he tells Vince he proves he's the world's dumbest son of a bitch, as only Austin can. Austin pushes Briscoe and tells him not to touch him. Seeing as he was assaulted, he wants Vince arrested, and the fans erupt as the police oblige. So Vince is whining. He gets cuffed. It's a little switcheroo here. Instead of Austin being cuffed, it's Vince. And Austin is taunting them. Patterson's being accused of obstruction of justice. And Briscoe's then cuffed. And Austin is calling Pat a little bastard. Austin cracks a beer. And has one more thing for Vince as he kicks him in the gut and dumps the beer on him. And apparently, obviously, the cops in Chattanooga don't think that's assault. And he kicks him in the back on the way out. What an opening segment here.
Yeah, no, apparently if you are not initiating an attack and you already called the police on somebody, it is legal to stun them. Like, that is just a thing. So Chattanooga knows how to party, apparently. No, this was fantastic. Great opening segment, man.
Chattanooga.
It's so good, though.
Police, Austin, Vince McMahon, rinse, repeat. That's exactly what creates chaos to open the show. And Austin, as we mentioned in the newsletter, is littered all over the show because they know it works, man. They're not going to waste any time. They're not going to say, wait till the 10 o'clock hour. You know what? They're going to put him at the 9 o'clock hour. He's going to be there at 10. He's going to be there at 11. They're going to show segments because you're staying tuned in because that's why everyone's tuning in. Austin is contagious at this point.
Yeah, man. Taking over.
So we go to the opening match and we have the aforementioned Puke, Darren Drozdoff, and LOD 2000. And Meltzer's right here. He's not part of LOD just yet. We will see him put the face paint on and all that stuff. They took on the Disciples of Apocalypse. So that's 8-Ball, Chains, and Skull. It's a 6-man tag match. Winners get a shot at House of Black next week on Dynamite. So Darren Drozdoff and LOD 2000 get the win here. The match goes 4 minutes and 5 seconds. The ending sees Puke getting the tag, and then he breaks and everyone gets involved. Puke drops Chains with a weak-looking flying clothesline and then hits him with a power bomb. This was just, obviously, this is his debut. He's been in the Dory Funk Jr. training center. They want to put some highlight on him. What are your thoughts about Droz teaming up with LOD? You think if he fit well, or one of those, like, was it better or worse than Heidenreich, I guess is what I'm asking.
Oh, God. That's a terrible picture to think about. But I think this really just shot Droz's character in the foot, man. Like, he's not getting over this. You throw somebody with LD who's already in eyesight of 1998. They're a failing tag team, which in WWF is like, fuck them, get them out of here. Like, we're just gonna keep throwing them down. And there's effort being made, but it's not hooking like everything else does, right? So putting Droz with LOD was just not, it wasn't going to work, man. It was just going to kill Droz's character, which, I mean, it kind of kept him in that space. It sucks. Yeah.
So as we mentioned before, they're going to put Vince and Austin all over the show. We have a segment right in the back, Vince in the back arguing with the police, saying that I'm Vince McMahon. This is my company. You can't arrest me. Austin is lurking behind the scenes. You see him in camera shot, and he tells the police to take him away. After they go to commercial, Austin helps them put the 3 culprits in the police car. So Austin getting involved. Fans are popping in their seats. They love it. And they move to the next match here. It's Dan Severn, Owen Hart, lead us through this match. It was quick, unfortunately.
Man, it was quick. And like I said, I was so looking forward to this beautiful, oh, we get to watch Owen Hart. And like, it's been these kind of matches for the most part. It sucks because, like, obviously he's a fantastic, amazing worker, man. But yeah, this is kind of bullshit. Dan Severn got the win over Owen Hart, and why? Like, why do we got to be doing that? It's just, Owen's not a jobber, man. It's just like, it's not fair. You shouldn't be treating him like that.
Yeah, and Dan Severn gets to win by DQ. The Nation runs down to dismantle Dan Severn. Mark Henry comes out, and he squashed Severn with 2 splashes. Baby Henry, as we call him here. They use the chair on his ankle. Most notably here, Dan Severn is inexplicably not with Cornette anymore. They just dropped the NWA stuff. He is, I think he's still the NWA champion, but didn't come out with the belt, wasn't with Cornette. They're trying to separate him for him, but it seems like the damage is done as far as that stigma of the boring nature of this gimmick. So Dan Severn and Owen Hart, like you mentioned, dude, Owen's not a jobber. It makes no sense that he's involved in stuff like this, and he could be doing so much more at the top of the card. Because you want to talk about work rate, that guy is probably the best worker on the whole card, and everyone is just, it sucks, man.
Yeah, they're making them open Raw. Like, come on, and it's not like the Raw openings these days, or like the Dynamite openings. Like, this is a shit Raw. Like, you're second to the Austin segment. You are like a stepping stone until we see Austin again.
So we get Vince McMahon in the back, and they keep showing him in the back of the police car, and then we got another Edge promo quick, and they're building up to his debut. And then, of course, we have Jackal, aka our friend Don Callis, who's been very involved in a lot of chaos on Dynamite. He comes out with the Howard Stern's Whack Pack, and we talked about Howard Stern in the past. And
wow,
the popularity of Howard Stern on the radio, terrestrial radio, and that platform took fire. And just as WWF was rising to the ratings, Howard Stern was as well. What were your thoughts about seeing these guys, Hank the Angry Drunken Dwarf, Crackhead Bob, all these guys on TV? The emergence of the oddities, because eventually we'll see ICP, we'll see other different types of eccentric characters, to use that word loosely. But what were your thoughts on Howard Stern being blended in with WWF? It feels like the perfect match.
Yeah, well, we had our local guy was Mancow. It was Mancow's Morning Madhouse, and like he was at all the events all the time, like same shtick. Like, he had a drunk guy there named Freak, and like that was our morning show, so we were used to it. So seeing Howard Stern be involved, obviously on a bigger stage, he's a bigger stage than what we have here in Chicago. Yeah, I thought it was awesome, man. It was cool. I had no heat against it. Howard Stern was a hot topic at the time too, so fuck yeah, right up their alley, just like Mike Tyson was.
Yeah, it's surprising that Howard Stern didn't appear on TV himself, but we saw some of the characters appear, and we get the debut of Golga. So this is the first emergence of the oddities. They didn't have the oddities presentation yet, but they're sort of, the announcers are putting over the idea that these are, Jackal has oddities, and these guys are coming out. Luna comes out, and we have Golga taking on Thrasher with Mosh in his corner. Golga, of course, has, like I mentioned before, Crackhead Bob, Hank the Angry Drunken Dwarf, Jackal, Paul Silva, and Princess Luna, as they're calling her, in his corner. Absolutely trash match. This is not the presentation I'd want of John Tenta. I mentioned I would rather John Tenta be presented as a main event guy. But we do get the Howard Stern pack on commentary with JR. Match is absolutely horrendous. Fans have no reaction to this. And we'll probably get to the point where we're going to see the oddities in our orbit. Their entrance eventually was very over with the hands and the music. It was very awesome. But as far as in the ring goes, an absolute abomination of any work rate. Not good. And it didn't help that Golga's debut was against a guy like Thrasher. He squashed him pretty quickly. Hit him with a power slam. Again, RIP John Tenta. I love Earthquake. One of my favorite Hasbro figures. I love Earthquake. Golga just wasn't it. No,
but it did, like, it was, I don't know. It was a hard place to put somebody. It's like a Carney gimmick, because that's basically exactly what it goes down to. Like, oh, we got the weird lady that talks like this, and then we got Golgo, the guy in the mask wearing the fucking South Park shirt, and we got Bob the Crackhead. Damn it! It's a weird mix, but it did bring ICP to national television, pro wrestling.
Right?
So
No, it's a good point.
There's some cool shit about it. Like, there was, it was weird, but it was it was funny little segment. That's all it really felt like. This was not a wrestling match. This was just a segment with some wrestling involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Howard Stern is popular. You got to put yourself in context of 1998. Howard Stern is as popular as ever, and
he's talking about it.
The exact he was talking about it on the air that day.
Bob the crackhead, you were just on Monday Night Raw. How's it going? Robin, what'd you think about it?
You're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I wouldn't go there ever.
Yeah, ever. It's terrible. No bagels. It's bad.
But I mean, this oddities gimmick, it's horrible because obviously it didn't go well. But if you, it's not. I guess it was set up to fail. It was always going to be a mid-card thing. But if you put something at the top of it to pair with Golga as the heater, am I looking at it? I think this had potential because I look at the entrance. Eventually, people were behind it, but when they got in the ring, they weren't into it. But I think it could have caught fire if they put the right person behind it.
Absolutely, but that was they had
I don't know
to fit that role.
But when you put like it felt like the Island of Misfit Toys in a bad way. Guys that couldn't work, like Paul Silva was given up on. Golga was John Tenta, they didn't know what to do with. Luna, they didn't know what to do with it. They threw her there, and it just was. They feuded with nobody. They did nothing, and that also you are what you are put in, and what you surround yourself in. And the oddities never had a chance to succeed. But I do think, in the context of 1998, it could have been good. I still stand by one of the best theme songs that have ever existed. If you guys have never heard the Oddities theme song, fantastic.
It's
everybody come see the greatest show. Come on, it's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's and that's what I'm saying. Like there was something there. They just didn't know what the fuck it was and couldn't figure out how to make it launch. And thank God they didn't put Edge in it. Because
but you also think guys like Val Venus, Christian Cage, guys that have yet to get a gimmick and they didn't know what they were going to do. They might have put him there. And we also talked to Midnight Express. It might have been Edge. Like they got so lucky.
Yeah.
Box of gimmicks. No. They didn't get the sorting hat of Harry Potter didn't choose them that day.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
But I mean, the thing is too, and the one thing I'll say about the oddities, and I'll move on from it. I think presented like American Horror Story Freak Show in a serious way. This could have been something good. I'm not sure if you're familiar with American Horror Story that season.
Oh, yeah.
There's something very serious, like Twisty the Clown. You could have brought like a Doink-like character and had him be the main antagonist or something like that. I don't know. It kind of fits, especially when you're burying and you're digging up Undertaker's mom. Like, what else is like? You can just bring everything is fair game at this point.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't get like a more of a. I mean, I guess you really can't take away from the Undertaker Kane stuff, and that was the real like wild shit. But like, we should have had some like Wyatt like horror-esque character to fit with the oddities. It would have made it perfect. Like, you know, and like a Rob Zombie movie, like one of those kind of gimmicks where it's just like, oh hell yeah, and boom, love it, absolutely love it. House of a Thousand Corpses, it was not
something, exactly something like that. And I think obviously everyone, when you think about circus clown gimmick, you can go to Psycho Clown in Mexico, but the top tier clown gimmick is Doink the Clown, and that is and I think heel Doink Clown 1993
the best
has potential. Like it really does. And I maybe that's an unpopular take, but he's freaky. Clowns can be freaky if you're not into clowns, and it's a heel clown in wrestling. I think has a lot of wiggle room to grow, in my opinion.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Anyway, so we have Al Snow in the crowd. He has head, and then we also have Austin in the back talking to the cop, and he's flipping off Vince. They have yet to take Vince to the police station. They're still talking in the back. But then we move to the next match here. Short again, another DQ finish. It's Vader as he anticipates getting into that Kane match, the mask versus mask. A little tune-up match against Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee in his corner. You want to handle the duties here?
Yeah, no. Listen, it was cool. Vader got a decent little run here. As you know, I love seeing Jeff Jarrett get his ass kicked, and Vader lays a good ass kicking, and so I was all for it. We had Kane come down and enhance that feud with Vader, that match. And Kane's just being trained to be a monster, a fucking beast of a monster, and they're doing a great job with it. I think it really stuck, and yeah, man, he comes down, beats the shit out of everybody. It's a typical Kane thing. We're getting some love for it.
Yeah, no, like, honestly, to me, if Jarrett was going to lose, I mean, obviously they protect Jarrett because they still have some hope he would go and do something as far as main event goes. But give Vader the win here. Why is it going to be by DQ?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
have him win and have Kane come out after. Like, you can't give Vader a win here.
They weren't thinking like it. Everything needed to be in the match. Somebody's gonna pop up and go after him, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It was riveting at the time. It was new. It was cool, but hindsight, fuck, man, there's a lot of DQ.
Man, I just like when you watch Vader's treatment. Like, you talk about how Cody being treated on WWE is influencing FTR being like, hey, maybe we'll go. Like, that's what they said. But Vader, like, if you watch the way Vader was treated, like, how could anybody think they have hope? They were a main eventer in WCW or Japan. How could you ever have hope they would treat you right if you're an outsider?
Yeah,
look at the way Vader was treated and Dusty Rhodes were treated. Like, I would have never. Obviously, they squashed out the competition, so you had no choice. But damn, Vader was treated like
Sunday.
shit.
We'll see Sunday if Cody Rhodes feels the same thing come Monday morning. Like, God damn it! Like,
we'll talk more about that. But
yeah, we could do that for hours. But
so we have another segment backstage. Austin is letting Vince go, and Vince gives him an apology, and Vince is hanging his head in shame. And then we get Vince coming out to the ring again. He has all his cronies at his side, and Vince is just upset, man. His hair is everywhere. He's disheveled, and he's just upset. And he said Austin has had some fun tonight, and I hope he's proud of what he has accomplished. And he's fired up for being arrested like a common criminal. He puts over the fact that Tennessee is, full of common criminals. He says Austin's reign will actually come to an end tonight because now you're going to face Taker after everything that went down. So we're going to get apparently an Austin Taker match at the end of the night for the title. And the fans pop, and this is the middle of the segment. And this is going to keep you for the next hour. That's the other thing is this is going into the second hour, and they know how to grab you because now I have to continue to watch and see what happens.
No, that was the best way to do it too. That's the hook, line, and sinker. You're in. I'm down for Austin and Taker. Let's go.
So we have another DX segment, and they're at the airport, and Operation DX continues. So the Operation DX stuff, we'll see a lot of the WCW stuff, but Operation DX continued throughout all the different segments from week to week. And they are going through the airport and just being childish. And Triple H is going from plane to plane, just acting like a child. So this is more DX stuff, more childish, juvenile tactics. But again, Operation DX, people will just be like, they went to Nitro once, but this was something they did. And one was very popular. The others didn't really hit. And this was one of them that was like kind of not as memorable.
Yeah, no, like it was goofy shit, but it was that was DX was very childish, way more than I think people remember. And going back through this, that's what I'm seeing a lot. But this was not as bad as pulling out your dick in the middle of a segment and then coming out with super soakers. So. Well, yeah, you got to pick and choose, I guess.
So we have Al Snow wearing a bandana over his face, and he climbs over the railing. He's yelling at Jerry Lawler at the commentary table, and he says he wants to see Vince. Security come try to grab him, and Al Snow sprints off. So doing some of this outsider stuff with Al Snow came in with some heat. And this is interesting to me because Al Snow, I love what Al Snow did. He becomes semi-popular in the mid-card. The hardcore division was sort of owned by him for a bit. But this was cool how they brought him in with the ECW level gimmick.
Yeah, no, I loved it, and I like just being pumped with the head thing and everything. It was just awesome. It was good to see him on TV. I was so pumped.
So this next match we won't spend too much time on. Taka Michinoku defeated Dick Togo. He had Yamaguchi-san on his back, and it was 3 minutes and 50 seconds. This was a quick match, but it was fun, fast paced. Taka got the win, and Taka obviously hit the head scissors takeover for the win. After the match, Yamaguchi gets in the ring and Taka's about to lay into him, but here comes the squad known as Kaientai, and they lay into Taka. Fun match, man. And again, like I mentioned before, 3 minutes and 50 seconds, but it felt more sequenced than other things. And this was a change of pace from the rest of the card because it actually had some wrestling hold and wrestling moves.
Yeah, dude. No, that's the best thing about at least having a Taka match going on. But this is great. I think Taka's one of the bigger underdogs in '98. He's been putting on fucking great shit like since we started doing this, and I'm really enjoying his work. This is interesting. It's funny and it's goofy, and I love this angle, man.
For an angle I don't love, Mark Mero and Sable. We have the next match here. Farouk defeated Mark Mero with Sable in his corner, 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Damn.
So again, this was lame at the end. Obviously, Sable distracts Mero, and Farouk clotheslines him for the finish. Mark Merrill is not pleased with the ending here, and he wants a stipulation for the match at the pay-per-view. He's going to wrestle Sable at Over the Edge, and he said, I will tear up the contract if she finds anyone who can beat him without her help. If she loses, she is out of the WWF. And Merrill says, if you win, I'll leave. So that's the segment here. And I think if I remember correctly, we're going to get Mark Merrill versus Sable in an intergender match. Sable powerbombed him last week, which is probably the most memorable thing that either one did in a program with each other.
Yeah.
But they were, not great. The fans do react to Sable, though.
No, they love Sable. Listen, they go nuts when she powerbombed. Like, there's something there. Is not the best angle to go back and rewatch because we're in completely different times. But I mean, you feel for Sable. I think that's why the crowd really got behind it. It was more like, this guy's abusing me, and they really made it relevant. So yeah. I don't know. Sable was always fond in my heart. I loved when she was kicking ass. I remember having her figure. It was a giant hard plastic in the bone cruncher area. You're like, what the hell are you going to do with this? But listen, she's still DDT'd. It was all good.
So before we get to the next match, we have the Blue Angels, which is obviously the military planes, flying over where WCW was or supposed to be at. And they make smoke in the sky and say, whatever, they do the sky writing, and it says WCW sucks, and they advertise Triple H and The Rock. They show this on screen. Triple H is doing a voiceover, acting as if he's flying it. Yeah, I mean, this is not as memorable as when they show up to the door at Nitro, knocking in the door, asking where Uncle Eric is. But
yeah,
they do hype up this match, which comes up next, and this is the match that Meltzer talked about in the newsletter with The Rock and Triple H. And this is, as they mentioned, two of the best young wrestlers, and they do a good job of hyping it up. And they really are. These guys are future main eventers. I don't want to understate that, but The Rock and Triple H are off to bigger and better things at the end of this year. And then also they're going to have a really memorable match at SummerSlam 98, which I can't wait to cover with you. And they're both going to be world champion. I mean, Rock will get his first title at Survivor Series 98. Triple H will get his first world title September of 99. So they're off to the races here. And this is the main thing. The IC title was a launch point for the world title. And I mentioned this on Wrestling Tonight. Gunther is being used that way. So if the IC title is using it as a launch point again, it would be very interesting to see. Maybe Gunther is the main eventer, and the IC title can be that mechanism to get people in that spot again. But anyway, this match was really, really good. Really good. And you go through it was 10 minutes and 50 seconds. Unfortunately, the ending was a double count out. They don't want to have any guy go over. But there's a lot of good stuff here. If you guys are checking out one match on this Raw, check this one out. A young Rock, a young Triple H, even though they're 8 years older than Hoovy, according to Meltzer. This match was very good. And it stands out on this card because of, like I mentioned, there's so much garbage wrestling that this one really stands out. And even though it's not the most catch kind of technical style wrestling, that fits the era so well. And the Rock style and Triple H style, it's no wonder that these guys will be world champion in only a few weeks. And the personalities here too, not to mention China there. And Mark Henry really plays his role really well. Having the Nation DX feel with this, man, I really enjoyed this. It was a really good match. Double count out though.
No, listen, but anytime you put Rock and Triple H in, an opportunity like this, they kill it, right? Being as there was so much shit on this Raw, of course this was amazing, but it still holds up. It was good. It was really fun. I like the DX Nation kind of bullshit going on. China plays a huge role like that. She's just such a prominent authority figure. I love it, man. But this was great. Triple H is just fucking about to bloom. The Rock, like, they take over wrestling after this year. It's awesome.
Yeah, and like it's crazy. WWF is a factory for creating main eventers, and to the fact that their mid-carders are just on fire. And like I mentioned, their chemistry, Rock and Austin have great chemistry. Foley and Triple H have great chemistry. Rock and Foley have great chemistry, but Triple H and The Rock really have great chemistry. Judgment Day 2000, their Iron Man match. And just these guys feel like they're main eventers playing mid-carders here. And it's interesting to see as we approach later in the year, Rock winning his first championship, as I mentioned before, and then Triple H only close to there. It's a matter of time for these guys, and they look like they're ready to blossom, as you mentioned. And they are ready to go. And this match was not a coming out party because everybody knew about it, but I think SummerSlam 98 will be their true coming out party where they excel. and it's very memorable, very, very memorable.
100%. You can see the seeds planting. You can see how the growth coming out, man, and they are sprouting into superstardom.
Yeah, and just for the record, although Hoovy and Kidman probably are better workers, they can't even touch what The Rock and Triple H would ever do in the business. It's just, I want to give credit to just the machine. Like, even though we say Fedbrain like tongue in cheek and it's something that has a negative connotation, it's amazing to me that WWF and WWE continue to, they can get people to believe whatever they want just by saying things over and over again. It is a propaganda machine that can make you believe the youngest, fastest rising stars exist here and they exist nowhere else, even if it's true or not. That's amazing job done on their end. It was done in 98. It's done in 2023. That's just the part of the machine.
100%. And the way they do it too is, I mean, look at this card. It's been shit show after shit show. And then you get, a Taka Michinoku match. You're like, all right, this is dope. And then like you get to, these matches and you're like, shit, this is amazing. And that's how they do it well, man. And it was great. I fucking loved it. And it was a good shit, pal.
All right, so to end this go home show, before we get to Over the Edge 1998, we have Steve Austin versus The Undertaker for the WWF Championship. And there's only a couple minutes left. So if you were watching this live, like you could see it was like 10:55, similar to like Dynamite when it's like 9:52 Eastern. And you're like, oh, they only have 8 minutes for this match. How are they going to go? It's a world title match. They only have 8 minutes. And Tony Khan has told us we can go over the air, but we get obviously shenanigans. They're never going to have this match on free TV. Undertaker chokeslams Vince immediately. Tombstone time. Out comes Kane. Undertaker drops Vince. And then Kane and Undertaker go at it. Kane is sent over the top rope. Undertaker uppercuts Kane over the railing. They take him to the ground. Vince's goons get in the ring. They try to help Vince, but out comes Austin. He kicks and stuns Vince, and he does it again to the cronies. He ties up Vince in the ropes. And Austin has a chair as Vince was pleading with him. He places the chair against his head, and out comes Dude Love with the chair, and Austin hits Dude's chair, which ricochets into his head. And I'm sorry, it wasn't Vince that got stunned. It was Pat and Briscoe. I was too excited to talk about it, but Vince was tied up in the ropes. And it's good storytelling because the imagery that's usually Austin who's tied up with Vince screaming in his face. That's always the famous image, but it was the roles reversed. What do you think of this ending segment as they get prepared for Over the Edge?
Probably should have just did the segment and not called it a match, but I get like the intertwining and everything. This is great. I mean, it's a great build to a pay-per-view. I love seeing Austin, flip the tables on Vince for once. And it's Vince hates it. It really shows the growth in the characters. The storyline they're telling is really, really, really hitting hard, and it's just knocking off at all cylinders. I thought chaotic ending. Fuck yeah! Like I'm here for them because I'm hooked to see Over the Edge. Like sign me up.
Before we move to Over the Edge, what were your thoughts on the face standing tall to end a pay-per-view? It's not usually storytelling 101. I guess WWF is trying something new. It's usually the face is in peril going into the pay-per-view, but Austin was standing tall.
You know what? I think it's different and it works because it's like kind of, we want to see what Austin's going to do next now because like he's going into this with the upper hand, which we haven't seen yet. So I mean, a good swerve for the story, and it's cool to see Austin get one of his first of many comeuppance on Vince. Like this is brilliant. It's so good.
So that brings us to WWF Over the Edge from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Center from May 31st, 1998. And this show opens with an awesome video package, and they showcase the Vince and Austin feud perfectly. If you guys are looking for a little catch up to what's been going on, really awesome. And Vince saying, obviously you have to conform to authority. You can't stand the fact that you must conform, you must respect authority. A really awesome video package to open the show, builds the tension, and WWF does a really good job of doing that. And they've always done a good job with their hype packages and the music that was chosen. That was part of the edge. And if you think about even ECW, we talk about 1995, a big part of the production was music, as was it in WWF for 1998. It really was.
No, 100%, man. But this was an awesome package. Loved it, and I love how they're Austin's is badass. Tell your story.
Hell yeah. We move into the opening match here. It's LOD 2000 with Hawk and Animal versus DOA. What are your thoughts here as far as this match? Obviously, the choice of an opener, it goes 9 minutes and 56 seconds.
Yeah.
DOA, not a fan. We've been very critical of him week after week. Draws is still LD's protege. So, yeah, I mean, it went long, but give us your thoughts on the match.
It went really long. It was okay. Like, it wasn't anything great, especially after we just kind of seen this on Raw, you know, like why did they repeat the shit? We're on a pay-per-view here, premium live event, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, man, it was an okay opener. Just meh. I don't know. I didn't love it. It was yeah.
So ironically, we get a promo on a pay-per-view, and The Rock came out to cut a promo on the people in Milwaukee. And obviously it's just there so Farouk can run out and attack him. Farouk was scheduled for a shot at Rock's Intercontinental title tonight, but obviously we get some shenanigans going on, and The Rock did a stretcher job. So we're in doubt if we're going to get this match. And again, the Rock and Farouk feud has been going on for quite some time now. And I think Rock has to really rid himself of the Nation, like not just being in the Nation, but getting rid of Farouk. And even though like he took over the Nation from Farouk, it feels like he's constantly dealing with a shadow of Farouk. And I don't know if it's so great. I mean, Rock's bumps all over the place are fantastic. Some memorable moments here, but I'm ready for Rock to move on from the Farouk stuff.
Yeah, no, I think it's due time, and I mean we're getting there, but still, it does drag ass.
So we have Michael Cole interviewing Steve Austin about the odds not being in his favor. Austin says, "I don't care," and obviously Michael Cole asked him the question we're all thinking about: is anyone going to be at ringside to have your back? The odds are stacked behind you. You have Dude Love is against you. You have all the Vince's stooges, Vince's special ref, special timekeeper. How could you get out of here? And he said, you know, I don't really care if anyone has my back. I'm obviously don't trust anybody. I'm on my own here, and that's it.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
And we move on to Jeff Jarrett versus Steve Blackman. The match goes 10 minutes and 58 seconds. And yeah, at this point, it's too long. It really is. It's just too long. Jarrett added a kendo stick and won in 10 minutes and 18 seconds. Technically, there's some awkward moments in this match if you go through it, but this has no place on a pay-per-view. It really doesn't. And this is exposes the mid-card a little bit here. Dude, for this match to go 10 minutes and 18 seconds, this is get up and grab something to eat from the fridge. It really is.
Yeah, no, I was shocked about the time length, you know, wild that they would give him that much time. Because, I mean, you're not seeing that on Raw. I mean, there's some moments in it you're like, oh, it's not a bad match, but it's a waste of time.
So we move on to the next match here, and it was the aforementioned Loser Leaves Town match, Mark Merrow versus Sable. And this match, Sable was supposed to pick somebody to face Mark Merrow, Mike Belcaster, but instead she came out in her ring gear because she said, I fight my own battles. So if Merrow wins, Sable must leave WWF forever, but if she wins, she's free from Mark Merrow altogether. He felt bad and laid down so she can win her freedom, but as she covered him, Merrow kicked out a 2 and rolled her up to steal the match. 21 seconds. One thing I'll say, Mark Merrow's celebration, all time. If you the way he enthusiastically celebrated was all time. Probably was the biggest celebration of all time. Like he won the Super Bowl. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great job. Acting chops by Mark Merrow.
And that's the thing. We hate him so much because he's so good at making us hate him. He's a great heel.
And then we have Michael Cole interviewing Sable after, and obviously she said, I can't believe Mark Merrow would stoop that low. Michael Cole is empathizing with her. And then we have backstage Rock wearing a neck brace as the Nation was checking on him. He's, although The Rock's in a ton of pain, Commissioner Slaughter said, you must defend your title or you'll be stripped of it. So although he was taking on a stretcher and his neck was seemingly broken or hurt, Slaughter has no sympathy. He's going to have to go out there and defend his title.
Yeah, no, we need a Slaughter for AEW. I keep saying it, man. This is awesome because he's like, no, you're ready to feel it, man. But he's just like, yo, you're getting your ass out there, and we're taking that fucking title from you. You gotta love it.
So for you, is there anyone on your mind that could be the Commissioner Slaughter on AEW television? Is it like Christopher Daniels? I know he's an ROH, but someone like that. Jerry Lynn, maybe.
I could see Jerry Lynn. Somebody's gonna be more formal. They have to have the character to do it. Jerry Lynn's kind of too respected to be somebody who's gonna be like a. Well, no, I take that back because look at Sergeant Slaughter. So I think Jerry Lynn would be perfect. A Mark Henry, somebody. God, give us something that we could have. MJF fight every week because it can't be Tony Khan all the time. I would love it.
So that leads us into our next match here. I'll let you take the lead. It's Kai and Tai versus Taka Michinoku and Justin Bradshaw, who have this nice little mini feud going on. And Justin Bradshaw and Taka, I think Justin Bradshaw was teaching Taka how to drive. Taka is still the light heavyweight champion, despite him never defending the title. He's still a champion, guys. He has the belt, which is beautiful, by the way. That red strap, a beautiful title.
Absolutely, yeah.
Interested in purchasing that one after watching this, but I don't know. So many other cool titles, but very cool. I love the red stripe.
Yeah.
But lead us through this match. I mean, this is Kai and Tai, Dick Togo, Men's Teo, Sho Funaki, and the team of Taka and Bradshaw. It's a 3-on-2 handicap match.
Listen, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm loving Bradshaw teamed up with Taka Michinoku. Like, it's funny and it's comical. It's good shit. Bradshaw's a powerhouse, and he shows, like, when he gets the hot tag, he just goes in there and demolishes shit. But I was shocked that what's it called, Kai Tai won. Like, it really threw me off. I was like, God damn! But it was really fun, man. It was way better than anything we've seen outside of the main events from Raw so far. Like, this is hot shit. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, obviously Taka eats the pin, but I have to say I was very impressed with Bradshaw. And I know when he became the main eventer, everyone was like, I don't see him ever main eventing. I can't believe this is happening. But when you watch him in a match like this, he made this match way better than it had any business being. And of course, Kai Tai's like flopping around. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff, but Bradshaw had main event presence in this match. And if you watch this, he brings the noise. He plays his role perfectly. He's the monster, as you mentioned. No selling stuff. I was a big fan of this match. I think it had no right being as good as it was, but I was thoroughly entertained.
Yeah, listen, Bradshaw's like one of the most he gets a lot of shit for being like a really great heel. Like, but people take it too seriously. I love Bradshaw. I think he is a goddamn Hall of Famer, a legend. He earned that shit. He's one of my favorite workers out there. I absolutely love this whole segment.
Our next match here is for the IC title, and Sergeant Slaughter said Rock must defend his title unless you want to be stripped of it. So we have The Rock taking on Farouk. And The Rock didn't come out after his music was played twice. Out comes Slaughter, came out, and he says, you better come out here or you're losing your title. Rock finally shows up. He has a neck brace on. Farouk obviously gets in the ring. He focuses on the neck. He beats on him most of it. Rock got in the people's elbow, hit the DDT for a near fall. Rock thought he had the win. He was upset. Farouk hit the spine buster and got a 3-count false finish here. Rocky's foot was on the bottom rope. Crowd thought Farouk won here. Had a decent reaction to it, but maybe they were testing to see what people would react if they took the IC title off of Rock. I'm so glad it didn't happen. But with Farouk stunned after the finish, Rock used the Ric Flair pin to steal it at 5 minutes and 2 seconds. The injury route was interesting here, and I'm not sure if Rock was legitimately hurt in some capacity, so they wanted to limit his interaction in the ring. But I can't. Maybe I didn't see anything in the newsletter about Rock being hurt, but match was strange. It was a strange match, and obviously the title stays on The Rock, but they could have went a different route, but they went injury route, which is weird.
100%. But I do like that they gave The Rock, we're gonna play his music twice. Like, that's a good mechanism. Fucking really sell the injury and shit like that. But I thought story wise it was good. But still, it was just a kind of a clusterfuck. Nothing great, nothing terrible. I expected better out of The Rock and Farouk. It was short.
So just to mention, Farouk hit 2 more pile drivers on The Rock. The Nation shows up, and DX comes out, and they are still continuing their feud, DX and the Nation. And leads us to our next match here. It's the mask versus mask match that we mentioned before, building up Vader versus Kane. And obviously, this is set up for, we all know the finish. There's no way they're taking Kane's mask off against Vader. No way. Vader, though, was over. He comes out here in Milwaukee, gets a decent reaction. Milwaukee's kind of a WCW town, so Wisconsin giving him some love. Match was stiff. Kane was no selling a lot of stuff. He had a flying clothesline. I mean, Kane does not get credit for the athlete he is. He really doesn't. The stuff he was able to do for his size. But yeah, this is Vader grabbing a wrench as retaliation for their match back in February. He never got to use it, but Vader had an attempt at a moonsault. He missed, so Vader getting up there. Although he's on the heavier side, he's still able to hit high-flying moves, and Vader, again, sneaky athletic. But then we get Kane hitting the tombstone. Pretty easy win. This was probably a squash match, to be really all told. 7 minutes and 20 seconds. This was just to get Kane a win after dropping 2 matches to Taker on pay-per-view. That's the way I look at it. And Vader taking it here. And this is the infamous promo that we get from Vader, whether it was a work or a shoot, who knows whether he was told to say this, but he gets on the mic and says, I'm just a fat piece of shit. And he cuts this promo, and my heart kind of stormed a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a big Vader fan. Just watching how far his persona went down, it sucks. It really does.
No, absolutely. That was one of the most heartbreaking things you could hear. I feel like that was a shoot. I don't feel like they told him to say that, and he's just trying to voice the shit out there. It sucks. Vader deserves way much better. And it is the worst part of it is this is kind of how his career, in the spotlight at least, kind of dwindled down, and he kind of just stepped away for a while. It sucks.
So Michael Cole introduced Mad Dog Vachon and Crusher to honor them. So I'm assuming they're local to the Milwaukee wrestling area. Jerry Lawler got involved. He was talking shit to them until he got beat up. Jerry Lawler eventually stole Michonne's artificial leg. And I think they did this. I forget what WWF in their house. I think it was a Diesel match that Mad Dog was involved at ringside. And I'm pretty sure Shawn Michaels and Diesel were having one of their matches in your house. I have to look it up. But they took his leg and they hit him with it. They used it during the match. Do you remember that or not?
Yeah. I do remember. It's crazy.
I think it was Mad Dog Vachon's leg. I think, and here he is in the ringside again. Crowd didn't react though at all. Like they did not react to this at all.
It's crazy because the Crusher is huge over here, like huge over here. But maybe it just didn't click with the times.
Yeah, and Chicago, Milwaukee area is pretty much the same sort of fan base, all baked into one, right? Like that's pretty much.
I mean, I would assume so. It's like the Midwest loves fucking, the Mad Dog Vachon. It's what we do. Bruiser, Crusher. That's what's up.
All right, so lead us through this next match. This is the Nation and DX going at each other. Obviously, without The Rock, and without X-Pac, because X-Pac is still hurt. So the Nation comprised of Owen Hart, D'Lo Brown, Mark Henry's in their corner, taking on DX, which is Triple H, Billy Gunn, Road Dogg, China, and X-Pac are in the corner. Dude, this match goes very long, but lead us through. Tell us what you liked about it, what you didn't like.
This is like wanting to go to the pyramids because you want to see the greatness that they have over there, but like you forget it's in a fucking desert, and you're like, you have to deal with the sand and the heat and everything, and you're trying to cross the rivers. There's no rivers. No, this was there was good spots in this match, but it was long as shit, and was hoping it was going to be a little bit more banged up, but by the time 18 minutes hit, like I was over it. But it got some great moments with Owen. He hit Triple H with the fucking pedigree. That was dope. But not a lot going on here. So it was a good storytelling wise, but man, was it so long.
So yeah, just for clarification, as you were reading about the match, Bruce Pritchard talked about how it was Mad Dog Vachon's idea for Diesel to rip off his leg. So this is the same.
Yeah, love it.
Same cast of characters. I think the In Your House match took place in Milwaukee. So yeah, I mean, this was a huge moment. As you mentioned, this match was just too long. Nation gets the win here, which is interesting. If you shave a few minutes off this match, I feel like it would be better. But like I said, 18 minutes and 33 seconds. It's hard to keep anyone engaged with it. There's a lot of personalities in here, and this doesn't fit the attention span of the Attitude Era booking, where they go 2 minutes, 3 minutes on Raw, but then they go 20 minutes on pay-per-view. There's like you got to meet them halfway somewhere.
100%. It was like watching a WWE version of a Public Enemy ECW match. Like there's not enough cameras, not enough time, and not enough effort. It was just all over the place, but it was good.
So we got into the main event here, and like we mentioned before, the odds are stacked so against Stone Cold Steve Austin here. Taking on Dude Love in a no disqualification Falls Count Anywhere match for the WWF Championship. Vince is special guest referee. Briscoe is timekeeper. Pat Patterson was ring announcer. Pat Patterson's ring introductions are classic here. They took forever. But before the match, Undertaker came out to play the role of guest enforcer. So this was interesting as well, because obviously they played it up that Austin has no allies here. And right off the bat in this match, Vince gave a quick count for Dude Love. And obviously the rest of the match would be foretold here with Vince not being the fair referee. They go back and forth here. As the fight moved outside, Vince made Pat Patterson announce this is a no DQ match. So originally it wasn't announced as that, but they're changing the rules as they go. It's Attitude Era at its best. The brawling was top notch in this match. Foley, we talk about chemistry that Triple H and The Rock had, but Austin and Foley had great chemistry as well.
100%.
And Austin took a really crazy bump when Dude blocked a stunner and sent him flying outside. And obviously Austin bladed. We see some blood here. And then they go back in the ring. Dude came close. A few spots here where it was near falls, interesting enough, where you thought Dude Love might have been taking the title off of him. And even watching now, like obviously we know that Austin's reign continues, but it was the Attitude Era. They could have done anything. Like at this point, when you're rewatching, they would have put the title back on Austin the next night. That's how crazy it was. The ending saw some crazy stuff, and Austin hit the stunner, covered him. Patterson pulled the replacement ref out after Vince was knocked out. Mandible claw by Dude Love. Taker pulled out both Patterson and Briscoe. He chokeslams both of them through the announce table. Austin hits another stunner on Dude Love, and Austin grabbed Vince's hand to count 3. 22 minutes and 28 seconds. Absolutely incredible. Nice little loophole. So like, how are they going to have Vince count the 3? He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And the 3 count was counted. One of the finishes I've used with my figures over and over again is this referee spot. Fantastic sports entertainment and compelling storytelling. Think about all the personalities involved in this right now. We go through the list with Austin and Dude Love, but Vince and Patterson and Briscoe and Taker. It was just, I mean, insane. This is peak Attitude Era when it comes to shenanigans, and it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be cohesive. It doesn't have to fit like traditional wrestling storytelling mechanisms, but you could skip most of the undercard. You can skip a lot of the stuff going on, but this boils down to the main event, which it always did. It was always going to be about Austin and Dude Love. And this is a classic. This match is an absolute classic. And I think it's a must see for any Stone Cold fan and any Foley fan by that matter.
Absolutely. And I'm like, I love this match. I've it's on, I believe it's on Foley's compilation, greatest hits album, DVD, as you guys like to call it. But it's one of those ones that just lash in your head. The brawling, as you said, is top fucking tier, man. And it just is so much going on, but done so well. Very, very awesome. And I love Foley's mannerisms. I love Austin like their chemistry together is just beautiful. And you throw Vince in the mix, and like this is some top tier goddamn pro wrestling.
It was great, and I had a great time watching this match. I sat back and enjoyed it. And like I said, Vince McMahon is the best heel in pro wrestling in 1998 and probably in 2023. If you look at it, like this character is so strong and so involved in everything that you believe everything everybody's doing. Like part of being immersed in this era of wrestling is understanding the motives of all these characters. And I feel like every person's motive is so clearly defined in the main event, at least. Like, you know what Steve Austin wants, you know what Dude Love wants, you know what Vince wants. And with that being said, like, you have the ability to go from there. So many times in wrestling, you don't know what the motives are. It's so clear what these guys want. And you go for that's what helps drive the story. And it's amazing.
Yeah, no, done at the highest level, man. So goddamn good.
Yeah, and like if you really think about it, you could have been born in any time frame, but you were born in the same time that Austin and Dude Love were active, and here we are getting to cover it all these years later. It's fantastic. I mean, we were lucky to live during this time to watch this. It truly was. You were lucky. Like if you didn't watch this live, go back and do yourself a favor and watch this and enjoy it. Like it doesn't get better than this, because even out of context, this match still rules. It rules.
Yeah, no, oh have mercy. You speak the truth, my brother.
I mean, amazing.
You want raw? I'll get downright nasty.
All right, that being said, let's get to the show right after this. This is June 1st, 1998, in your stomping grounds, Chicago, Illinois, the Rosemont Horizon Center. Obviously, the highlight of the pay-per-view, as we lead in, that they show in the highlight, is Austin. And we get an opening segment here with Mick Foley. and he's in the ring, and he talks about his teeth being broken twice. He was telling fans that Austin kicked his ass, and he apologizes where he calls out Vince. Vince comes out. Mick Foley realized that he let Vince down, and due to what happened to his face, the dude will be out for a bit. When he comes back, he expects to be number one contender. Vince looks on disgusted, like, what are you talking about? Foley wants forgiveness, and then Foley gets on his knees. Vince wants Foley to get on his knees, and Foley's just baffled, and Vince screams at him. Mick Foley says, "I will not allow you to embarrass me on TV as my kids are watching." Vince responds, he doesn't have to worry about it as an embarrassment to himself, the fans, and his family. Mick Foley says that Vince has underestimated Steve Austin, to which Vince then says to him that you overestimated dude's abilities. Foley has a confession that he felt pretty damn good when he wrapped the steel chair across his head. This is going back to the pay-per-view, Unforgiving 1998. Vince tells him to do it again and points out to the chair, and he says, "I want you to make my day." Vince then screams at him to hit him with the chair. And if he does have that college education for the kids, will be gone. And the new house he moved into, that will be gone as well. So, Vince says, "Foley, you make me sick." And Vince has decided to fire him. And I no longer need your services. Foley looks sad. And Vince is doing the dude love dance as they play the dude's music right in front of him. I mean,
beautiful. Yeah.
Evil Vince McMahon. Face turn for Mick Foley. And this story, too, if you go through watching the Foley progression outside of just the Austin Vince story, there's the dynamic with Foley and Vince where Foley is treating Vince like a father figure. He wants his love so badly. And we watch it go all the way to 1998 where they put all this in Survivor Series with the Deadly Games tournament. They put all the stock in Foley. You're going to be the champ. You're our guy. He puts the suit on. He's wrestling in the tie. He's your guy. And it winds up being Rock screwing him over after all that. And we're halfway through. You want to talk about year-long storytelling? Like, this has been a story going on all year, and it's gonna really cement itself at the end of 1998 and even continue into 1999, where Foley wins the title too.
Yeah, no, it's some of the best, just beautiful stuff. I'm 99% sure I was at the show. I remember these things. I don't remember exactly where I was sitting, but I remember falling in love even more so with Foley from that promo, being in the house there. So yeah, man, this was awesome. I love it. Vince is an evil bastard.
So we're gonna go through some of these finishes quick. This match too was again another Disciples of Apocalypse match with LOD. So it's Darren Drozdov and LOD 2000 versus the Disciples of Apocalypse, which is 8 balls. It's a 6-man tag team Chicago street fight. Although it's a street fight, dude, this match goes 4 minutes. 4 minutes for a street fight. They do fit some stuff in here at this point. They got some garbage cans. They got a whole bunch of the chairs. But how do you fit a street fight in 4 minutes? It's insane.
With Legion of Doom in Chicago. Come on, man. Like, what way to pop the crowd, but then take it away from right after.
I mean, the crowd did react to them, and they did have like a good reaction. And Puke and Chains are going at it, and Taker comes out and he beats the shit out of Droz and Chains as he enters the arena. So we have a little bit of Taker taking some noise away from this, but no contest in a 6-man tag team Chicago street fight match. But so we don't know who's going to face House of Black and Dynamite next week. God damn it.
It's bullshit.
So we move into Val Venus versus Papi Chulo. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is the former Aguila, the new Eserios, right? This is the new gimmick on his end. They demasked him, and here he is as Papi Chulo, and it's just not much to talk about here. Val Venus, it just absolutely decimates him and hits the money shot for the win. It's a squash match, 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and this is a squash match that's 15 seconds less than a street fight that they had to open the show. Go figure.
It's got Venus envy. But this is just crazy. And this is, I'm 99% sure I was at S.A. Rios' first match. So they think this has got to be definitely it. But fucking crazy, man. Val Venus I was in love with the Val Venus character here. Because I think I wore a towel. It was rather this show or the next one. Like I brought a towel with just to do it in the entrance, throw the towel out and be a boom. It was the best.
So while I'm going over this Taker segment, can you just look up if Papi Chulo is Eserios the same person?
Oh, yes.
I don't want to.
Yes.
All right.
We got this.
So
don't worry about that.
This segment here, Taker's coming to the ring and he's cursing at Vince. So he came out obviously to the aid. We talked about it over the edge, and he's talking about his past. He says Vince was known for giving people an opportunity despite being different. He said, "You gave me a chance to be myself." And that's where it's all stopped and all the taking began. Taker soon became the slayer of dragons. Vince knew that Taker would be loyal, so he had to face every giant, and Taker beat them and move on. Taker made Vince's kingdom safe for himself, and he handpicked his champions. He also continued, Vince did not want someone like Taker being champ and repping the WWF, so his reigns were short. Taker said, "I stayed loyal despite making less money, as I thought my opportunity would come." He says, "I'm not happy about having to fight my brother and Paul Bearer telling all about my life. It was done for ratings," and Taker never lost his smile as he was taking care of the family business as Austin rose to the top. And Taker makes it clear, "I have nothing against Austin, who continues to fight like a man, but I've had enough of my family thrown in my face, and I want to take what's rightfully mine, and I want a shot at the WWF title." He said, "I've done enough talking," and he tells Vince, "Get your pencil neck geek ass out here and face the Reaper." Vince comes out. He has a little bit of swagger in his step here, and he states, "I'll give the answer that Taker is looking for, but I just want to say something first, Taker. After all I've done for you, you chokeslammed me and you hovered over me last night." Vince says, "I'm appreciative for what you've done, but I want to know what you have done for me lately." And he says, "About your family problems, I want to know if they're true, if your mom's a whore." Vince then tells him that, "I want you to be the number one contender. If you can, you have to win your match tonight, and your opponent's going to be your brother Kane." Taker's not happy. I got to say, man, great Taker promo. Very, very good Taker promo.
Yeah, and gives him, I mean, the depth that it lays onto him. Like, he's this badass. He wants his fucking title. Like, you fall in love with him. Vince coming out too and just doing
and
Vince
weaving
shit.
reality too. He says, "I never lost my smile. I've been loyal. You guys, you push other people over me. You're making my business other people's business." It was a shoot style promo, but I really enjoyed it. It had a different edge to Taker.
Absolutely, man. It was great.
So as far as Papi Chulo goes, did you have any answer for us?
Yes, I do. So sorry. I totally spaced out because we were so in depth on Taker, but Papi Chulo is Mr. Aguila, is S.A. Rios. So very awesome, man. And Jose Delegando Saavedra.
Yep. And I have a confession to make as far as my Jack specific. I might have said this on a past show, but I made a Shawn Michaels figure into S.A. Rios because I was that into him. Yes. I enjoy the S.A. Rios' stuff with the moonsault, the red hair, all of that.
You loved it. Absolutely loved it. I think
I was custom making in 1999.
Xbox. Yeah, you have to, man. All Sharpies and shit, but it worked. It always worked.
So we have a DX promo as Sable is in a photo shoot and they interrupt with Super Soakers, whatever. And we get some King of the Ring 1998 qualifying matches. So we're going to get some King of the Ring stuff, and King of the Ring is returning as its own pay-per-view, as we're going to get Queen of the Ring. Of course, it's in Saudi Arabia, but don't want to take away any steam from it. It's going to be its one-off event, and we're going to get King of the Ring used to be, people forget, a staple of the WWF calendar because the winner of King of the Ring got a shot at SummerSlam for the championship. It also set the tone for who it would be the next main event. We mentioned the IC title being a mechanism to push someone that's next. That was used as also the King of the Ring. Mentioned guys like Bret Hart, Owen Hart, Triple H, Stone Cold. Guys that won the King of the Ring, gone on to bigger and better things. Of course, it lost its luster. The last pretty much big King of the Ring winner was 2002 with Lesnar winning, going on to beat The Rock at SummerSlam. But
100%.
I'm happy they're bringing it back. But otherwise, we're having a 1998 qualifying match here. It's Mark Merrow versus Steve Blackman. Lead us through. Tell us what happened here.
It was, Mark Merrow doing his thing. We know how much we love him going on. But, we had Jackie out there. That was beautiful.
Okay.
We gotta love Miss Jackie. I'm a big fan. I've always been a Miss Jackie fan. She's a sweetheart. But I don't know. It was all right. Not too much going on. Miro was getting his ass beat, and then he gets the wiggle room and gets over. It was okay.
So Mark Merrow advances to the 1998 King of the Ring.
Yeah.
Steve Blackman is now on the outside looking in.
Poor Steve Blackman.
Steve Blackman got most of the offense in this match, and then Merrow hits the Samoan drop for the win. Yeah, Blackman looked pretty good in this match.
Yeah, I mean, we throw some shade at him, but I thought it looked really good today.
So we have Austin on the Man Cow show, and you mentioned Man Cow, obviously Chicago. And Vince calls in, and Austin taunts him as he wants to start a National Puncher Boss Day. So a little Chicago love here with Man Cow.
No, awesome. And I remember hearing this on the radio because I was not attending school today. But I remember listening to the Man Cow in the morning being like, hell yeah. Like, they would always call in and shit like that. So it was cool to have that tie-in. Get you weaved into it more.
Awesome. So we have another 6-man tag match here, and it's an elimination style. So We know it's not going to be only 4 minutes, but we have the Nation, which is the team of D'Lo Brown, Owen Hart, and The Rock, with Kama and Mark Henry in their corner, taking on DX, Billy Gunn, the Road Dogg, and Triple H with China and X-Pac. So this is a Survivor-style match, 6-man elimination tag. Slaughter is the timekeeper, and X-Pac is told to leave immediately from Slaughter, and then China is thrown out too. For some reason, Kama and Mark Henry are allowed to stay ringside for a little bit here. Match goes pretty good here, and we obviously have a lot of shenanigans. Highlighted by Owen and Triple H looking strong at the end of this match. The Nation get the win here after the elimination, and we get some Dan Severn stuff going on in the background here. The Nation seems like they're consistently getting over on DX. If you notice that, it seems like the Nation is getting win after win over DX. And it's interesting to me because you felt like DX would be the I guess hot commodity, like they put them over, but it's not the case here. The Nation is consistently looking like they have the upper hand on DX. Very interesting book.
Yeah. No, I think they were trying to establish how good the Nation is. I think DX didn't need that much effort put into it, so it was okay for them to get taken down one here and there, and especially with the Nation, because they were such a strong force as a faction. So I thought it was pretty cool. I loved it. I love Owen Hart, man. It's fucking him and Triple H did a great job throughout the match, and it was fun, man.
So we also get a Ken Shamrock run-in as well. So Shamrock, Severn, Triple H is not happy about the interference, and he hits Ken Shamrock, and Shamrock tackles him. The brawl's on. Officials run down and break it up. I like Ken Shamrock and Triple H pairing it up a little bit. I like the chemistry they have together.
Yeah, no, it's cool, and I wish we would have seen much more of it.
So we have Vince in the locker room, and he's talking to Paul Bearer and Kane as they shake hands. We don't hear what's being said, but clear as day, they're trying to make a deal with the devil here. Paul Bearer is trying to solicit some services from Kane to Vince, and maybe there's some stuff going on. But obviously, now you're interweaving the Kane and Taker storyline with the Vince and Austin storyline, which is beautifully done. It's two of your hottest storylines weaved together, which I enjoy.
Yeah, they absolutely crush the way that mechanism that let's intertwine everything. It makes everything so much more meaningful. I'm loving the shit out of it.
Which leads us into another King of the Ring qualifying match. It's really not a great match. Jeff Jarrett with Dennis Knight, Mark Canterbury, and Tennessee Lee in his corner. Dennis Knight will be Midian going forward. We're going to see him. Obviously they start as the Jeff Jarrett's cronies, but Jeff Jarrett defeated Farouk in a qualifying match, 3 minutes and 21 seconds. This is the Godwins, so we mentioned, I said that he's Midian, but the Godwins are a tag team you might be familiar with. They're wearing suits and they're called Southern Justice. So this is their debut, I believe. But Farouk, fresh off of wins off The Rock, loses to Jeff Jarrett. And of course, shenanigans at ringside cost him the match, but Jeff Jarrett still gets a win. But no clean win anywhere in sight in 1998. Doesn't matter what match it is. No one's getting a clean win. So Jeff Jarrett qualifies. So far we have Jeff Jarrett in King of the Ring. We also have Mark Marrow. So King of the Ring looking studly so far.
Yeah, no, that's going to be the best one ever.
So we have our next match here, the light heavyweight championship. They heard me talking shit about it, saying he defends it against Sho Funaki here. Two guys that are paired up together. They wind up being a tag team themselves later in the future. Taka has Bradshaw in his corner. Sho Funaki has the whole crew with him. Dick Togo, Teo, Yamaguchi-san. This match is quick, 3 minutes and 8 seconds. But we have Al Snow coming out as a highlighted of this match. He's dressed as a Japanese dude, gets involved in the match. Snow is let out as Taka wins with the Michinoku driver, which I love the Michinoku driver. It uses a transition.
Beautiful sight.
Narrow now, but as he sits down, you hear Excalibur saying he did the deal with the flex into the Michinoku driver. I love it. Match was fast paced. Like to see the light heavyweight championship defended. Makes me want to buy that title. Maybe eBay has a little bit of the Saudi Arabia, whatever Indonesian titles on eBay. Maybe I'll look out for the red strap.
I'm sure you announce it on your Instagram. You'll have at least 20 DMs. Like, how much you need? Like
exactly.
Title belts for days.
If you need any graphics made, hit at No Cell Studio. I'll make you some graphics so you guys can pay for my light heavyweight championship.
Yeah, or maybe in exchange for a light heavyweight championship.
Who knows? Taka Michinoku, if you want a shirt made.
Yeah, man. Hook him up. Hook him up.
So we have another qualifying match here. And again, it's Mark Henry taking on Terry Funk. And had me thinking like what Terry Funk would have done in this tournament. But alas, Mark Henry gets the win here. Funk goes from main eventing Raw a few weeks ago to just putting Mark Henry over. I'm not saying it's a bad choice to have Henry win here.
Yeah.
But I wish Funk could have been in the tournament in some capacity because I do enjoy what Funk was bringing to the product in 1998. But young baby Mark Henry gets the win here. Yeah, power bombs him, splash, finishes him off. It's always nice to see Terry Funk. I like to see him on our TV.
No, this was a match I totally forgot existed in 2023, and it was like, how awesome is it that Mark Henry got to work with Terry Funk? Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's true.
fucking bad. You know, like really think about that. Like, it's crazy. It was a short match, but I mean, it happened. It's legit. It's right here. It's for the King of the Ring qualifying. Like, that's fucking wild to think about. And I don't think anybody really talks about it. So pretty wild, man. But yeah, always good to see Funk, and I'm here for putting Henry over. He's a beast, man.
So we move into the main event here, and it's obviously we talked about before. It's the number one contendership match. It's Kane and Taker. Vince is mad because Austin's coming down to the ring. Austin takes his spot, and Vince is a tad frightened by Austin's existence, and he stays on the mic as he and Austin draw back and forth when Kane comes out. So we have both these guys on commentary, which makes for really good dynamic. This match is pretty short, and you knew it was going to be short because of the time crunch. You could see it's approaching about 2 hours, so you knew this match would be short, but it was a brawl. So we get a lot of Kane and Taker on pay-per-view. We've had them in the Inferno match on Raw, so they've been wrestling each other a lot, and I'm sure they've been on house show loops, so they do have a budding chemistry. They know each other, and they know what they're going to do without even saying it. But this match is pretty good. I really enjoyed the chemistry, as we mentioned. Kane gets the win. We get some more shenanigans at the end. Taker has the pin, has the visual pin. Ref is out. Foley's on the apron. Undertaker walks right into the mandible claw. And Undertaker finally escapes, and Kane rises up and is knocked down as his Foley. Kane tombstones Taker. Ref wakes up. The win. Austin wants to know if Vince can do with this. Vince denies it, as obviously he fired Foley. He's like, I fired this motherfucker. Like, what is he doing back? I don't think. Why is he helping my guy? And Austin says, I look forward to beating Kane's ass at the pay-per-view. Kane and Austin have a stare down. This is a pretty big moment. This is a big moment,
Yeah.
and correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to get a Kane one-day title reign coming up very soon.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely. It's wild, and it was a good fucking switcheroonie. But this was awesome. I love like the star power that's out here. We get Foley and Taker and Kane and Austin and Vince, and like you can't get better shit than this. This is so awesome, and I love Austin, going after him, like, you have something to do with this, you son of a bitch. Like, no, Austin, I fired him. Like, it's beautiful storytelling, man, and you're getting in with top quality people pulling it off. Absolutely loved it. Good way to end the Raw. It was fucking so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, again, top of the card is so it carries the show, and there was some good stuff aside from the top of the card, but this was excellent. And even when Austin's not wrestling, his presence on the card is felt. And
Yeah.
I honestly have a huge interest in, especially going forward, a Kane and Austin program where Kane's been unbeatable. And obviously Kane has lost to Taker, but like, he is a monster. It feels like every time he loses, it's like, oh, he barely lost. Only Taker has his number. So going into the pay-per-view, it's Bad Blood, I believe the pay-per-view is coming up next. I think also the dynamic of Foley and Taker, because King of the Ring is next, because we're gonna get the Foley and Taker. We're about to approach the Foley and Taker Hell in a Cell. Coming up very soon.
Yeah,
because that's June '98, and the feud kind of started here. It's an unassuming mandible claw on the apron that he just walks into, and so we're about to get some really memorable stuff, and can't wait to cover it. I don't know how much we can do it justice, because it's like one of those things you had to live in the moment, but one of those crazy things that will never be duplicated. And thankfully it won't, because that was very scary. Foley could have died that night. And that's, it was insane. So
no, absolutely. I'm so looking forward to that, because it's that was one of a big moment in like my fan memory, where I was just like, what the fuck did I just watch? Like, it's locked and loaded. We're right there. We're prime time. I totally forgot that we got the do that. So yeah,
We're sitting here talking about King of the Ring qualifiers. I'm like, what pay-per-view's next?
Yeah. It's Resurrection. No. We're good. We're good.
Live from England. All right, let's get into Chaser and talk about our favorite part of these 3 shows and get ready for, dude, WrestleMania weekend.
The Chaser.
All right, Mike Belcaster. Each week we will pick our favorite part of the 3 episodes we review. It might be a pay-per-view, it might be Raws, it might be whatever it might be. But Mike Belcaster, what was your favorite part of these 2 episodes of Raw and Over the Edge 1998?
Man, I have to go with Dude Love and Stone Cold in the Falls Count Anywhere match. It was just brilliantly done. Stuck in my memory, and it's just it's one of those things that lasts over time. It was so fun to go back and rewatch. I haven't watched it in a few years. Beautiful match, dude. Absolutely beautiful.
I have to agree. I mean, I want to pick something else just to pick something else, but I can't. Like at this point, that match, to me, and this might be overstepping and hyperbole, but I feel like it defined what the main event formula would be going forward throughout 98, 99, and going forward to 2000.
Yeah.
The Dude Love Austin match set the tone for absolute chaos, telling the story in the ring, out of the ring, and nothing is off limits. It could just be, as long as it fits into the narrative of what's going on in the story. Vince can restart the match. Vince can say it's no DQ. You can introduce referees, and you can even look at, WrestleMania 15, some of the memorable moments where they just have guys, Foley Foley won the match to become special ref in the match. And then Foley was in the hospital. So Vince is the ref, and like, it's always some chaotic shit, but this is the formula that works, man. And it creates all these memorable moments. And that, to me, that's peak Attitude Era when you watch them going at it. And Austin at his best is a brawler. And it's so good to see him being turned up to 11. And he's the highlight. He really is.
Yeah.
And I know it's easy to say and lean on that in WWF 1998. And it's like, wow, yeah, no shit. ACEFIELD Retro. Austin is great, but he really is. And I don't think people appreciate him, but I don't think they appreciate him for everything he did in week to week basis. You remember the big moments. You remember the beer baths. You remember riding the Zamboni down to the ring. But it's these moments here from week to week on commentary, cutting promos that he really sells the product and takes it to the next level. He's there week to week and selling it and making the WWF into what it is today. Mount Rushmore type of shit.
Talking trash and making cash. That's what we love Stone Cold for, man. It was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And like you really feel it again. You're like, oh no shit, I missed it. Like I really do. I miss seeing Austin on a weekly basis. We were spoiled, man, spoiled. So, but it still holds up. It's fucking awesome, brilliant storytelling. Some of the best storytelling in pro wrestling. It's just fucking mind blowing, man.
And it makes you really appreciate it, especially as we're approaching WrestleMania weekend. Like, how could you not be romantic about pro wrestling when you have a guy like this who we lived through this moment, and moments like this live forever, and it stands the test of time. And it's not just Austin; it's guys like The Rock, Taker, Foley. This whole era is, and even Vince. Like, dude, Vince as a character is transcendent, and
100%.
I just love it. This is why you picked 1998, and in the beginning of the season, we're like, I don't know, I don't understand. This maybe not age as well, but damn, this shit in here that just hits different when you watch as an adult. And it, in a lot of ways, matches like the Dude Love and Austin match age like a fine wine. It's timeless. It really, it's timeless.
100%, man. Like it still holds up as the best, just poetic pro wrestling, dude. Like, you gotta love it. It might not be the most technical shit, but it pulls the heartstrings where it's supposed to. You feel it. You really do. You feel what's going on. I love every moment of it, man. I couldn't be happier.
And, dude, I'd imagine as production was cleaning up every night, like as they're taking down the set and moving on to the next city, they had to know they were making magic. They had to. Like, you're just sitting there, you could feel the momentum building of just like you're part of a movement, and a lot of ways you can credit what ECW did to building towards this attitude. And we talked about that. You want to give them their credit, but with the machine and the money and Vince McMahon's persistence behind it, the Attitude Era took the wrestling business to a new level. And he was willing to take the slings and arrows that, having an attitude, having sort of this counterculture type of product out there instead of wavering and saying, okay, we're bad influence. We're going to tone down the product. Let's go back to Doink the Clown and Duke the Dumpster Drozy. he continues and persists. He pushes through and he sees it through the other side. And, wrestling becomes better for it.
100%, man. Very, very well said.
All right, let's get to closing the tab. The lights are coming on the bar. It's WrestleMania weekend. Like I said, you guys are probably watching Super Card of Honor, having us on the side. Put the commentary back on. Enjoy Caprice Coleman, Ian Riccaboni.
Yeah.
They're calling it a great match. So you guys can turn them back on. We'll let you go back to it. But let's close the tab.
Closing the tab.
All right, Mike Belcaster, you're in LA right now. You are repping the Tavern at WrestleMania. You're probably at Super Card of Honor. I have no idea where you're at right now. You're drinking El Segundo.
I don't know either.
You're hanging at the hotel, having a good time. I'm so proud of everything you are doing right now. I'm saying it up front. I wouldn't think of a better person to represent the Tavern doing the things you are at WrestleMania. Well deserved. You deserve everything that's coming your way. But give us some stuff coming up down the week. I know WrestleMania feels like it's the culmination of everything, but there is going to be life after WrestleMania, and wrestling will continue. It never stops. Give us some love.
Always. Listen, I'm pumped. I'm so excited. Thank you for the beautiful words, my friend. Yeah, man, I'm out in LA. I'm rolling shop. So find me, look for me.
La land,
man. Hit a brother up if you see me walking around. We just talked about the most beautiful wrestling play set of all time on Fig Night this week. Go check out what thoughts, opinions, what we're stoked about for that awesome Monday Night Nitro Mattel Creation set. I am fucking stoked. You'll hear more about it as you watch Fig Night, but yeah, good stuff. The wrap up AEW was great this week, as it always is, because it's AEW. We pre-taped this way before AEW, but listen,
Kenny Omega and Jeff Cobb ripped. It was great.
Jeff Cobb's welcome back, Jeff Cobb. But yeah, no, but yeah, man, that's the gist of it. I'm in LA. I'm taking some time off. I'm enjoying the sun, sipping on some Broken Skull, having a good time.
I love it, guys. And you guys can follow everything on theturnbuckletavern.com. Hit us up on Spotify and Apple with some reviews. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Instagram. The Instagram's blowing up. I believe the Tavern Instagram has reached like 5,000, 6,000 followers at this point.
Yeah, it's
Chad
insane,
is posting killer reels. They're crushing it. Make sure you guys check out for the latest shows. We have shows about 6 days a week. Some visits to Tavern pop in there, so you never know who's going to pop in and talk about wrestling. We're covering you everywhere you need to be for wrestling this week. You can check out Honor Society with myself and Colton covering all things Ring of Honor. We're going to be talking about the show, obviously Super Card of Honor. You guys can obviously check out the flagship show following Dynamite, audio only. So make sure you check that out. Maybe we'll get Hawk to finish this entrance theme invitational. Probably not. A lot of good stuff going on at Tavern. And I've passed my year anniversary being here at the Tavern. And I think end of February was my year anniversary. And to see where we've grown just in a short period of time has me so hopeful for what the future looks like. And I love what the Tavern's building. I love all the personalities that are here. I love the freedom that we all have to have our opinions and talk wrestling, whether past, present, or future, and having friendly discourse and having this awesome community of wrestling fans to have this platform. It's honestly a blast. It's made being a wrestling fan so much more fun, and having you guys from people I would have never met, like having you, Mike Belcaster, you and I hung out in Chicago, and forward to future times where you come out to Long Island and see the Wonder Years play soon. I will enjoy that. But
life goals.
It's just been amazing. I just love it. And make sure you guys follow at Turnbuckle Tavern on Instagram. Make sure you guys follow at ACEFIELD Retro. I'm posting a whole bunch of stuff on there. You guys can follow at No Cell Studios if you're so inclined. If you're looking for if you happen to be an independent wrestling promotion looking for posters, if you're looking for some examples, DM me on either at ACEFIELD Retro or at No Cell Studio. Check it out. And hopefully you guys are enjoying the week of wrestling. There's been a lot so far. GCW Collective is underway. Bloodsport. We have Impact and the New Japan show and WrestleMania. Man, Mike Belcaster, I got to ask you. I know we talked about it before, but Cody's going over, right? Or no?
I don't know, man. My heart says yes, but you never know. It's WrestleMania.
Would you be disappointed if you hear the Roman theme song bumping as you leave the arena?
Oh, I'm gonna be disappointed because I probably left an hour before that match. It's gonna be hard to hold out for that one, but no, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know, man. It's one of the hottest things in the world, and they could curveball it. You never know. So, I'm fully expecting Cody's weight belts, Cody's vibe. It seems like he's getting his moment because I don't think he's going to be there for a long time. Who knows? In 5 years.
Shout out to Cody too for putting all the independence he worked on the inside of the belt. I wish it was on the
Beautiful.
outside.
Yeah,
but still a very nice gesture to have all these, all these local promotions that he worked with. On his climb back up, not only to WWE but through AEW.
Yeah,
people forget like Cody Rhodes broke it down and started all over again. So seeing this moment, kind of surreal to see him, like, everyone chanting "Whoa," along with his theme song, singing along with him getting an insane amount of pyro. I'm sure it's gonna be comical the amount of pyro this dude's gonna get.
Oh yeah,
but it's a Cody Rhodes, like, for all accounts and purposes, changed wrestling for the better in a way that like a lot of guys didn't. He took
100%.
what comfortable place in wrestling history in WWE and had a comfortable paycheck, can live off his name and do the whole thing. He was willing to go out and explore, and he set the tone for guys like Matt Cardona in the Indies and explore and make a living with some freedom, some creativity. I hope he gets his moment. I'm a huge Cody fan. I think it's gonna be a great weekend of wrestling, and I really hope that we're seeing Cody standing tall with, because that's a moment that will live forever. We talk about moments, that moment will live forever.
100%. Just imagine the pop. It's gonna be huge. It's gonna be beautiful.
There's a WrestleMania 4.
Like a good steak, but it's gonna be amazing, man. I can't wait for just the whole vibe. I'm loving it as I speak. It's already been amazing. I've only been here for a few hours. It's great.
Well, guys, we gotta go. Vince Russo's in our ear. He's yelling at us. Mike Tyson's in our ear.
Final.
You want the dirt? Guess who's got the shovel?
Vince Russo's a mock.
Oh, we got that shovel. And you know what? We're posting all this stuff on our Instagram stories, then deleting it 52 seconds later. We got to get out of here. Mike Belcaster, safe travels, brother. I know we're taping this on Monday, so safe travels. We'll talk to you guys. And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Shot Nostalgia, episode 10 of season 3. Catch you guys soon.